We are the Keyboard Samurai, a podcast focused on sharing insights to help those working in cybersecurity companies, be them technology or services. Each session, your host, Wil Kluv, aka Wil Kluv, sits down with professionals in our industry to illuminate topics that will help your security biz, team, or self be better. Let's hack into it now. Hey everybody, welcome back. Another exciting episode. As exciting as talking about cybersecurity business is. For those of us who work into it, I guess we love it. To the outsiders, this probably seems kind of lame. That's okay. So I get joined today by some pretty famous people in my opinion. So Dani, Ben, why don't you give us the 20-30 seconds of who you are and why we care.
Cool. Yeah, Ben, I'm going to hand it off to you to go first. I always go first.
Perfect. I'll go first. Hello, everyone. Ben Siegel. I'm the founder of the CyberNest. The CyberNest is a knowledge sharing platform really powered by a vetted community of IT and security professionals. We have over 800 security leaders who use it really to share knowledge, find quality resources to help them build their security programs. Prior to starting the CyberNest, I was an early member of Gartner's emerging tech team. So I specialized on the cybersecurity side, worked with a ton of companies, really, using analysts to essentially go to market and help them better understand how to sell and market their services. In addition to the CyberNest, I've also partnered with Dani to spearhead CyberSynapse, which I'm sure she'll touch on. But that product is much more focused for go-to-market professionals of cybersecurity vendors.
Cool. Yeah, and I am Dani Woolf, CEO and co-founder of Audience First and the Audience First podcast, which is a very raw and organic podcast around who are actual tech buyers and why do they behave and do what they do. It's really a resource for go-to-market professionals in tech companies to truly understand their buyers and more predictably sell and market to them. And as Ben mentioned, I am also the co-founder of CyberSynapse, which is a fully managed buyer research platform and service. We help security firms connect with active decision makers and run qualitative interviews for them so that they can apply all that buyer insight, the truth, to how they make decisions in their marketing, sales, and product motions. So we're happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. And I'm sure anybody listening or watching is going to figure out what the topic is going to be, right? We're going to talk about, because I'm a huge go-to-market type of person. I've spent most of my career working in pretty much every department that exists within security and consulting and managed services. But somewhere along the lines, they figured out that Wil speaks well and put him in front of people. And so at that point, I started educating sales and I started educating marketing. I was like, this is kind of cool. But it's interesting because I think we've probably all come from different backgrounds, but like I noticed, and we were talking before the show, I feel like there's a huge disconnect in cybersecurity and technology in general. I think we all know that how you go to market and sell is not the way that everybody's actually doing it, despite those of us banging our heads telling people how to do it. So like Dani, I guess I'll start with you. Like why are we disconnected? What's the disconnect? And yeah, let's start with that.
We don't have enough time to go through all this, so we'll cherry pick the juicy ones. But just looking back at my time working as a demand gen marketer for a few cybersecurity firms, selling to some pretty skeptical IT buyers, enterprise buyers who are hard to reach. When you take a look at how the situation marketers, just in general, startups are in, they're having to answer to the VC, right? And what does the VC expect? They expect speed. They expect exponential growth at in record time. And
for
so
no cost.
for no cost with limited resources. And so think about yourself, putting yourself in that situation. What does that do to people? That puts them under a lot of stress, that puts them under a lot of uncertainty. If I do not perform, will I have my job at the end of the day? You know, thinking about this from even the lowest level to the C level. And so by nature, when we're put under stress, we make decisions that feel comfortable because we know that's going to make us feel better. And so we make decisions based off of what we're learning in our own echo chamber, what we know upstairs. And so that output and that performance seemingly feels good, seemingly feels valid, but at the end of the day is completely disconnected from the expectation of buyers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's funny because literally just posted on LinkedIn about go-to-market strategy and how like sitting in your comfort zone is going to screw you over.
Yep. Yeah. I have a really good image for that I post from a really cool website of literally a person with their head inside the wall and all you see is their backside. Like that's how a lot of us are operating. Hey, like I mean, I was guilty of it. I'm sure Ben, you've been through that situation before as well. Like we do things that are within our comfort zone intentionally. Like that's how humans operate, right? Because there's risk to doing things out of our comfort zone. It's scary, and so that's one of the things. Just kind of retroact, like looking at this retro. I had a lot of time to think about why we do things the way we do. And after having some time to kind of decompress after leaving some toxic environments and some very high pressure situations, I'm like, wow, this makes total sense. And I really, frankly, think we're doing a disservice to ourselves when we're not breaching that initial comfort zone and that echo chamber and going outward towards the people we care about, like our buyers, talking to them, or going outward and looking at different use cases in different industries, because this isn't a cybersecurity unique problem. This is systemic across different kinds of verticals as well. So I'll pause and maybe Ben has a little bit of insight into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I would say that the disconnect is really comes down to like a foundational like business problem, which is I think a lot of go-to-market professionals are overcomplicating what it takes to grow a business, right? It's bringing on clients and it's keeping them happy. And it's this continual flywheel. And so when we think about bringing on clients and we think about keeping them happy, it's really all about them all the time. We need to know exactly what are their challenges, how we can solve their challenges, how they make decisions, why our solution is better than other providers, or we need to understand, okay, we're currently solving this challenge as a client, but what are other challenges that we can solve for the client? And so voice of the customer data is like the prized possession that it seems that a lot of folks don't have, right? When we think about, okay, where do we get voice of the customer data? Well, we look at our sales transcripts and calls from Gong, and that gives us some signal into, okay, what are maybe prospective clients looking for? What's the market telling us? Or let's work with analysts like Gardner and Forrester and 451 Research, because they're going to tell us what our customers want. They're going to tell us what we should build. And so I think what's been missing is like first party data, like more sources of first party data where go-to-market professionals can say, hey, we're not looking at what our competitors are doing. We're not talking to analysts and they're just giving us some signal, telling us similar things they're telling a lot of players in the space. But like, where's the unique proprietary data sets? And it comes from the go-to-market professionals who are doing qualitative analysis, really seeking to understand, like having an assumption or a principle and trying to really validate that, because if they can provide first party data, not only are they confident in how they should go to market, but also their teams, their executive teams, their investors are even more confident why this company is the right company, to win in the market. So I think that's the disconnect, is we're trying to do so many things. We're trying to copy what everyone else is doing. There's a lot of this herd mentality of like, if everyone's doing it, we should do it. But we've missed the most foundational principle, which is business is about growing, bringing on more clients and retaining them. And why are we not spending more time with buyers? Why are we not spending more times with our customers?
Yeah. And I got to ask too, because like, again, I've been a product manager before. And what do? We go and talk to the clients. Hey, how are you using the tool? How are you using the service? What are you thinking about doing in the next 3 to 5 years? And then that easily translates into, because that's part of the go-to-market strategy. Like, and I know, like you said, the date, like, you know, analysts, like there's organizations out there that provide the data, and there's probably arguments to be why they provide the data and what that provider is meant to do. But like, I feel like if you're talking to your clients and listening to them, then your go-to-market strategy, you should be obviously know that it needs to be client-centric.
Well, it's obvious on paper for a lot of people, but when you think about the actual feedback and data that you're getting from customers or buyers, sometimes that feedback and data does not feel good because, you know, there's
That's the useful stuff though, right?
My baby is ugly syndrome, right? Like what happens when someone tells us our baby is ugly, we flip out, right? And nobody likes to feel that, you know, like uncertainty, and nobody likes to be wrong about things either when you think about how we are as humans. And again, maybe this sounds like kumbaya, but I'm going deep here, like self introspection, right? Like, why don't we look at how we operate as human beings working for tech companies? Because it's hard to look at ourselves and say we did something wrong, right? But I think the most curious people are the most successful. And I know a lot of really curious marketers who are, you know, pushing the boundaries, really trying to understand things at a deeper level. And just going back to this like herd mentality thing that you said, Ben, I love that phrase, and we should really harp on that more often. It really is that, right? You know, it's so much easier for us to do what other people are doing. It's harder to dismiss that and do new things and push the boundaries, because we can't sometimes necessarily attribute it to specific metrics that we've subscribed to in the beginning for those VCs, or we can't put it in a dashboard nicely, or we can't go to our budget and find a line item for it, for that. Like we're always trying to figure out, how do we fit within the business? And sometimes we don't fit within a lot of businesses because they're not mature enough to even like wrap their minds around this foundational way of operating, right? And so I just think that herd mentality is really doing us a disservice. And like, I'm here to push people out of that. Like, let's kick their tuchuses out of that kind of boxed thinking and go all the way radical up and right.
Right.
Yeah, Danny, I would just also add, like, I think imposter syndrome has an effect here, and we all have imposter syndrome in our own ways. But I think the disconnect is also tied to, there's a lot of marketers and sales professionals and product leaders that are unwilling to say they don't know. Like, I don't know if this marketing campaign is going to resonate. I don't know if we're targeting the right ICP. I don't know if we're really building the right features and they're actually solving the right problems.
Right.
And so what tends to happen is, you know, we sort of get direction either top down, right? Like, we're told what is our ICP, we're told what product features we should build. And so I think from an executive kind of viewpoint, buyer research, qualitative analysis actually gives your stakeholders confidence in the strategy. Like, when a marketer does the research and they know exactly what are the pain points they're hitting because they did their, you know, conversations and they actually did the research. Well, you know, they as a marketer, as an operator, are much more confident in the direction of the business if the CEO and the executive team and the investors told that marketer, hey, this is how we should market too. So, you know, I see it as an enabler function as well, so that everyone's rowing in the same boat. But I think the biggest thing Danny and I have learned is, like, alignment seems to be a real big challenge inside companies. Getting everyone to agree on the problems, like the biggest problems facing the organization, and then agree on the solutions to those problems, is a fight that we constantly are pushing a boulder up a hill. Is making sure teams understand, okay, why to do this type of research, what effect can it have on the business, and then is everyone bought into the value of that research and what it can drive to the business from an actual metric standpoint.
So there's something you both said, and something that I've been preaching for a long time, and that's the humanity of it, the humans. Like, when I do sales enablement, whether it's SDRs or salespeople or marketing, it's like, I'm always like, you're talking to a human being, like the person who's buying from you. Like, that's like you can say the business all you want. No, there's a person who has KPIs, metrics, PTO, family, like they have a life and an existence, and you need to resonate with them and give them a reason to want to trust you and give them their money, give you their money. And that client centric, I get most startups, when they bring me content and I look at it, I'm like, this is all blinky lights and features. It doesn't tell me what I get from it. What do I get as a person, as a CISO? What's my benefit in working with you? And and Dani, I'm going to go back to you because you kind of mentioned like the human part. And this is not just a cybersecurity thing. This is I think technology as well. And I think B2C has kind of figured this out. Like, consumer brands are really good at using emotion to sell. And we're all sitting here going, well, it's table stakes to have these one pagers that nobody's ever going to use. So
it's funny that you mentioned. Sorry, Ben, you go.
No, Will, you nailed it. I mean, I think the human element is what is overlooked, right? Like people buy technology because it's either going to like help them in their role, advance their career, or the flip side, like they might not buy something because they want to really cover their ass. They don't want to make sure they're making the wrong purchase. And so I think we look at like the CISO or the security engineer, security architect as like, these larger than life, figures, but really they're trying to make their life easier. They're trying to meet the organizational goals in a way that doesn't, overexpose or, spend too much, right? And it doesn't meet the expectations of the organization. And so, when we were at Gartner, there was the classic saying, like, nobody lost their job buying IBM. And so, that's thrown around a lot and it's like cliche, but it's like, okay, why is that foundationally true? And, why do we tend to kind of de-risk, solutions? And, we walk in and we go, hey, this is better than this existing tool you have. Well, we overestimate the change management involved, to take out an existing provider and bring you in as a new thing. And so with the clients that we work with, it's like really important in helping them understand that it's not just all features and tech and use case driven. It's really intrinsic and extrinsic motivations as well that drive purchasing behavior.
Oh my God, thank you for saying that. Like, that's exactly where I wanted to go. The problem is that we've built products and then the buyers become the problem.
Yeah, which is the opposite. Right?
Versus
That's brilliant. I'm going to quote that. I'm going to use that all the time.
100%. You can totally slap that around everywhere. Instead of we see the buyer has a problem and then we build the product. It's so much easier to do the first because it takes time and it's hard. It's hard to understand people. This is why we exist. This is why Ben and I are doing what we're doing. We're going to die on this hill. Well, I will. Ben, I think he will as well. I won't talk for Ben, but
I definitely will.
But there's that. And then I want to talk about that misalignment, which goes back to that you talked about, Ben, between teams. And it goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning, this kind of status quo, the herd mentality, and also sticking to traditional ways of thinking about marketing and just go to market. Those 4 Ps: product, place, price, packaging, right? And we've, I think, unintentionally subscribed to that to this day without realizing things are things are much more dynamic, and buyers are much more dynamic, and the way we operate as startups or businesses is much more dynamic and quick. And so when you pigeonhole departments into those Ps, like stay in your own lane, we're doing a disservice not just to our buyers but ourselves internally. Like, we should be working together. I don't see it as product should focus on product, price and package, sales should focus on sales, and then demand gen just gets kind of stuck with promotion and they're kind of being pulled on by a leash. I think everyone has their own responsibility to impact those 4 Ps, if that makes sense. Like, it's a mindset shift within the organization. And like, I'm thinking about my earlier days at Audience First when I was thinking about, okay, well, how do we get people more buyer centric? Everybody has to be involved in the customer journey. It's not like it's not like, oh, well, top of funnel, it's only marketing, and then bottom of funnel
Yeah, no.
is sales, and then customer success is after they, onboard. No, everybody has a function on the buyer life cycle. And so I think the best companies are thinking about it that way. And the ones who are shooting themselves in the foot are thinking about things in a siloed approach, when that's not how things function these days, with how quickly technology is being developed, how buyers are implementing technology cross department. And so a mindset shift is required.
Yeah, the places I have worked, which is kind of how I got into this, that were most successful were because of that. Because I could go to product and understand their ones and zeros, and then go to marketing and understand the images and the client journey. And then because marketing would come to delivery and product and say, hey, we need your input, and you're talking to the customer, like the client, and you have a client journey that's not just made up from one person's perspective, right? You have all that information in there from everybody else, and you get feedback. Because I think that's the other part, probably something you guys are doing really well is, you can get client feedback if you have clients willing to give it to you. If you don't have those clients, you said you're building that solution and you need to get exposed, like you have to find like a sample group, or you have to figure out like how do you learn about your clients at that personal level to be able to know that you're positioning things the right way, right?
Right.
Yeah. And Will, we say like, buyer research is not a replacement to customer research. Like you should absolutely, by all means necessary, be incentivizing, figuring out ways to get feedback, get this insight directly from customers at all times. And, I think we oftentimes are scared to say, well, we don't want to like, pull our customers into our problems, or pull our customers into, how we're essentially like, seeking feedback, but it's really important to build the relationship. And they also want the provider to take their feedback, because essentially they know that the product will get better over time, which serves them, again, the intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, which also then serves the organization and its ability to improve the organization's security posture. So, it's a process. There's ways to do it better than others. There's things that we're seeing working as tactics, but it's not a replacement. You should be using as much first-party data as you can, and your customers are really your best source of that.
Yeah.
Ditto.
No, it's like yeah, like mic drop. No, it's but I do. I'm sitting here thinking about the nobody got fired for picking IBM as we say IBM, but like there's a bunch of companies that fit into that.
Yeah, it used to, like, I think IBM was the OG saying. Yeah.
And I just know, because I've talked to all of those clients who will say that, but then also hate insert company here. And so why is that old mantra still exist? Why do people say that? Like it's confusing me, I guess, is to say. Like if I go talk to if somebody, nobody ever got fired for having Microsoft, then I go talk to a company that's got a bunch of Microsoft and hates it. It's like, well, then why don't you make a change?
Yeah. Well, again,
I think it's just naturally humans are just never happy. We foundationally are always.
I will counter that statement. I think people are happy, but it feels better to be miserable than to be happy, because it's harder to it's harder to find happiness because of all the decisions there are out there.
For sure.
But we can't. I don't know if we want to go down that rabbit hole. By the way, that's going to be.
Well, I mean, no, but it's funny because I'm thinking about another post I did a couple weeks ago, and it was literally like I was talking in the context of Dungeons and Dragons and D&D, and the people who complain about it the most are actually the people who love it, right? They want to complain about the thing that they love. So maybe that's the root of it all. Like you don't complain about the things that you hate as much as the things you love. So,
but
I think that's true. Like the users of your product who like are most vocal and most critical tend to be your best, users, right? Because clearly there's stickiness. Clearly they see value in what you're doing.
Oh my God, I got to write an article about this now. See?
And if they're using it so much that they understand these little minutia to say, hey, why does it work this way? It doesn't make any sense. You could do like, because again, that's kind of how the internet works for people who, the things that people like and complain about. It's because they know so much about it that they have the ability to do so. So I think
Yeah,
you're
and
right.
like celebrate it, because like we're in a attention economy now, right? Like if people actually care and are willing to spend any more than 5 seconds, 10 seconds, it means it's actually valuable. Otherwise it just, you would hear crickets. There wouldn't be any feedback you're getting.
Can I just say, I just find it fascinating that, thinking about the traditional or legacy analyst model and the 6 figures required to subscribe to that model, and the lack of ROI that we hear so many of our clients and prospects, going through. Oh, we don't want to use the Gartners and the Forresters of the world because, it's not giving us anything, but we have to anyway. So we're going to go spend 6 figures. Like that phenomenon is so compelling to me. I still don't know why people do that. And I want to dig deeper into that, Ben, like just offline. Like, I don't get it,
I think
That's
you said it earlier. It's a comfort zone. It's like,
Yeah, but
it's
there
lazy
has
for
to
me.
be more to
Yeah.
that. There has to be
Well,
more to that.
Yeah.
let's dive in.
If
Let's
I'm
talk
a
about it.
buyer and I can go to the Magic Quadrant and be like, oh, these 3 look fine. Let's go view. Like
But
that's the end
buyers
of my
don't
research.
do that. They don't rely on the Magic Quadrant to evaluate. That's just kind of a supplement, like quote unquote credibility.
If they don't know where to start, I think that's a place they start. I think, depending on their market they're in, right? Obviously there's, anybody in the enterprise and the upper mid-market can kind of start in the Magic Quadrant and pick a place and start from there. The SMB
I
market
think
probably doesn't.
I will push back and say I think that is a very, very immature buyer then.
Oh
If
yeah,
that's where they're starting,
for sure.
which is another problem we need to solve for.
No,
I
I have talked to like I try to pull CISOs, especially when I'm doing like service development and descriptions and things like that.
Yeah.
I'll set up at the beginning of the year whatever our roadmap strategy is. I'll talk to as many CISOs as I can and say, hey, does this resonate with you? Does this make sense? Are we planning the right things?
Mhm.
And what I found in that time is, no, they're not just going to the Magic Quadrant. But if they have a challenge, the first thing to do is they go to their peers. And they're like, what do you use? Why do you like it? Why do you not like it? And then they'll go to the analyst stuff and they'll look at that. They'll probably do some research. But this is interesting on the GTM side of things, because they don't go to the website until after they already know who you are and what you do. And then it's just like a validation to make sure that like, yeah, you're real. It's kind of like the face-to-face part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to that defensibility of a purchase, right? So, you're the executive, you made the decision to buy the tool, you implemented it, you didn't see results. And so it was a way to say, hey, like, yeah, we didn't see results, but they were X position on the Forrester wave or X position on the Gartner quadrant. So, I think we miss or underestimate kind of that, the motivations for why people lean on what is considered trusted resources or credible resources. But, I think with all my experience, working inside Gartner and what I've, grown to really learn a lot about research firms is just, I think clients are sold this dream that this is a channel, that this is, we are, a unique MSSP, right? Like, we're not really an MSSP, but we have this own channel and distribution network where the more that we know about you, the better that we can evangelize what you do. And I think a lot of companies buy into that belief. They invest a lot of budget, multi-year contracts in pursuit of getting leads, getting written in research, which any representative of Gartner or any other research firm would tell you, like, that is not a paid deliverable of the relationship. If it is, and you're being sold that, run, because you will be very much upset when you don't receive it. Does it happen? Sure. Are there edge cases? Yes. But we struggled as a team from an account management perspective, which was largely why I left Gartner and I started CyberSynapse and partnered with Dani, is because the insight is not personalized. You cannot use analysts really through the lens of your unique growth challenges or your unique product set. It's signal for the companies that can afford it. They're getting the same signal as the other companies in the space. And then ultimately you get to a revenue number where it's like, well, the 50, 80K, 100K solution, well, it's just part of being in the club because I think it's a good channel for us. I think it's going to produce results. And so why are folks still stuck in this, sort of continual loop with analyst relations? It's because I don't think there's an alternative strategy. And two, because there's the fear of missing out and the fear of not doing what others are doing, and the perceived, okay, well, if we don't have that booth at that event, people think we're not doing well. Or if we're not working with Gartner and our competitors are, then that might be why they're growing faster than us, or that's why they're winning deals faster than us. But if you look at the attribution data and you see, okay, are you actually getting like conversion metrics because you're in reports or because an analyst mentioned you, or there's not a lot of data that we've seen clients actually show that can prove that thesis. And so what we're doing is really going back to the basics, right? You're using analysts to understand your customer. Why don't you just talk to them directly?
Yeah.
Why don't you really seek to understand directly? And that's the shift we're making and we're pioneering, because there wasn't a lot of alternatives to getting access to voice of the customer data that's not analyst driven or sales data or Gong data.
So let me ask Arthur, interrupt real quick, because it's fascinating because Danny, you started this, which is like all the money that gets spent to do all of this, like it's crazy. And then now Ben, you're saying, and I completely agree with what you're saying, there's no ROI either for it. Like there's no actual metrics that say because you're here. And I know a lot of people who have been like businesses who are like, you're not in any one of these analyst things, blah blah blah. Like it's too expensive for us. Like it doesn't give us anything in return. We have sales teams, we do sales enablement. We have a better go-to-market strategy essentially than give analysts money and hope for leads. I'm sorry, there wasn't a question. I just thought it was pretty profound.
Well, so also the fact that they're thinking about this as a lead gen machine is also the problem.
Mm.
The metrics, the expectation of metrics and ROI is completely misaligned to what the program actually provides. And so I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like, if you think about this high level, it's like chicken and egg. What's really the problem? Is it the model? Is it the way people are thinking? It's kind of both, right?
Yeah, and if you think about the process, I mean, I'll provide as much kind of.
I've been on the other side of it and had to deal with it. I mean, not to cut you off, but yeah, feel free to talk about it.
Yeah, like the hidden truths is like, you might have bought at the time of purchase thinking you'll be in research and leads, and then what's the first engagement you do traditionally as a client is you're trying to educate the analysts, right? And you start educating them, and then you start asking questions like, okay, well, are we messaging the right way, and are we investing in the right features? Do you see, like, based on what customers are looking for, like, is our roadmap the right way? And the organization really pushes clients to really use these analysts as almost like go-to-market consultants. But oftentimes these analysts don't want to be go-to-market consultants. They don't like making those types of recommendations. They don't like doing message tests and these types of things, oftentimes because they don't have the real keys to success or the big insights that ultimately are going to move the needle, because they're kind of assessing and using surveys and talking to clients and then making kind of a, hey, here's this research report around where the market's moving and what clients are looking for, and it's repackaged. And so it's not crazy to be like, okay, well, we're going through this, we're spending a lot of time and energy doing these engagements. We're not getting the nuggets of information that would make this a strategic relationship. So because we're not getting the nuggets that are strategic, we're just going to keep educating analysts and keep reinforcing what we do with the hope that one day we'll be in research or have leads. And oftentimes, if you ask an analyst, hey, would you write about us? They get really like, the hands get clammy, right? It's like, ooh, you're asking the tough question, which I think is a really valuable question. Like, why wouldn't you write about us? But again, like, that's not the way the internal teams recommend clients interact with analysts. Is don't say to your SEAM analyst, like, hey, are we going to be in that next report? Or why would you write about us? That's like kind of like the no-fly zone in the world of research. But it's like, why is that? Why is that the no-fly zone? That's probably the most valuable data you can get from the person who's sitting, in between, what we perceive as buyers and sellers.
Right. That's like self-serving for the and I've been part of a customer of multiple analyst organizations and leverage the fact that like I can talk to an analyst and ask questions and and this isn't, I won't name names, and I don't think it's even not necessarily that the people I were talking to weren't educated. It's just the information I needed from them they didn't have, right?
Yeah.
I'm validating that this industry has these challenges and here's how we solve it and this is the offerings, and then they're kind of like, well, we really sort of whatever. Like it's never been that fully validated for me. Super useful, I should say.
And those are the conversations we have often, and one of the things that, I worry about is being perceived as like a disgruntled employee, right?
Right.
Like, oh, well, Ben is biased, right? Well, he must be saying this because of what Dani and him are doing at CyberSynapse and these other modes, but it's because I felt
it's a result of that called you to like you found the problem, create the solution.
Yeah, well, I also brought on clients and they were very unhappy. And, those were some tough years. And we all want to feel valued for our work. We all want to feel like the products and services that we sell deliver. And when they don't, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like, we're making an impact. And so, at the time of I left Gartner, I didn't know, Dani and I would be building CyberSynapse. It was really more a learning around people trust their peers more than traditional research firms. And that is what became the founding thesis of CyberNest, which is, our members are the value. They share the knowledge. They validate. We're just the facilitator of that knowledge. We're not the expert in the room. But you look at things through a different perspective. You go back to first principles and you're like, why does this exist? And why doesn't it work? And could there be a better solution? And can we actually solve for the thing that matters? And that's what we're trying to do every day, is trying to give go-to-market professionals like access to the data and insight that's proprietarily theirs, that we're not sharing with every client under the sun. It's really solely for them, because that's the unique data sets that they can use to like test their message, to make sure that they're building the right functionality, that they understand the buyer's journey. But people got to do the work. Or have us do the work, but it has to start with doing the work and being confident and actually, okay, maybe we don't know everything, and admitting that. That's a starting place that we're trying to get go-to-market professionals more comfortable admitting.
So that's awesome. I know we went down a rabbit hole of analyst things, but it was great. I do want to come back though to like kind of where we started, which is this disconnect. And Dani, like, so what needs to change and how do we change it?
Oh, I love that you asked that question, because I was just going to say, like, how do we unlearn some of these assumptions and these habits that got us to where we are? Well, one, I think it's really self-assessment, which a lot of people have a hard time doing, but it's absolutely critical. Like, can we audit our defaults, right? Then we have to replace our opinion with evidence. And this is kind of what we're alluding to, which is let's start with the foundational work. Let's talk to our customers and our buyers, right? That gets us out of our echo chamber. And then we have to run that kind of discomfort we're feeling as a diagnostic. Like, let's pinpoint and poke at what's most uncomfortable, because that's probably where the leaks are internally and also externally. And then experiment. Like, as marketers, we're supposed to be experimenting. We're supposed to have assumptions, but assumptions that are not backed by tests are going to be the most riskiest decisions that we have for our business. And then once we test those assumptions and those hypotheses, we rebuild the strategy as a system. So really it's how do we do that in a way that actually proves the ROI? We also have to reframe how we operate internally for people that don't get it. So reframe that unlearning as risk mitigation for the business, because your CEO and your board is not going to be like, oh, well, you're sitting here and unlearning all these tactics that we require you to do. How's that going to move the needle and give us money? Nope. We're mitigating risk for the business. Then we start with the high stakes bet. A product launch with low uptake, or maybe We focus on an outbound motion that's stalling, or we segment a particular target audience that's not retaining for our business, that's churning. Then we run a sprint, which is low risk because it's not a full-on project. 6 weeks or 30 days with CyberSynapse. Please let us know if you want to work with us. That's the shameless plug. Sorry, Will.
No, it's okay.
Then you instrument that behavior tied to outcome to the business, right? You tell the story to your stakeholders, like, we revise the messaging based off of friction triggers for the buyers, which essentially is going to increase reply rates by like 2% or 2x or something like that. You have to frame the story in a way that's going to resonate with the internal internal team. And then you kind of have to and then I think we need to structure the learnings in a way that's tied to quick tactics, not just learnings that are sitting on the shelf. Like, how are we going to operationalize these learnings, which most people don't do, right? So that way, all the things that we're focusing on, which is a new way of operating and may be scary for not just us as go-to-market operators, but for the business, looks predictable, looks systematized, is systematized, and we can tie it back to business outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, because one of the things that I talk kind of preach to business owners and leaders is marketing takes time. Like, you've got to invest. Like, you kind of have to not cross your fingers, but like, as much days you got to put, you've got to let it cook, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. it really, marketing and tactically, it's just done right. It's consistent touch points, time and time again. It's stacking that it's stacking growth. Some agencies talk about stacking growth, but it's just consistent touch points and output that cumulatively are going to give you that hockey stick growth. Because if you're not consistent, you're going to lose your audience. You need to stand for something over time and stand for something in the way you operate it too, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm just kind of
no, that makes
brain dumping at this point
right now. Well, and it's a big part of it. Again, some of the disconnect I see is the wrong content, the wrong outreach. Like, again, I think what you're saying, if I can summarize, is we've got to change the mindset to make it more personal, and we've got to communicate that. And me, I always say educate and engage, and then you can convert. Because if you're providing educational information, if people see value in what you're providing them, however format it gets to, whatever, from a demand perspective, like, that will create the demand. And then you just have to deal with the opportunities, ideally, right? If everything works out. So I don't want to, I could go down like 50 other rabbit holes with you guys. And maybe we will another time, but I'll give, if everybody, Dani, you first, and then Ben, if everybody wants to find you on the interwebs, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn. That's kind of my channel. I like to be there. So follow me on LinkedIn, or connect with me on LinkedIn, more importantly. Dani Woolf with 2 O's, WOOLF. Happy to talk.
Great. Ben?
Very similar to Dani on LinkedIn as well. Would love to connect with anyone who's interested in having authentic conversations, challenging the status quo, talking about problems. Would love to.
Love it. And I can vouch for anybody listening. Dani will definitely reply to your comments. That's how we met. So
yes, 100%. And again, shameless plug, if you want to talk with security practitioners and decision makers, talk to us over at cybersynapse.io. We love what we're doing. We have a great community of security practitioners who want to help as well. So that's also huge, in my opinion. So visit our website, talk to us. We're here to help.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll have links down in the descriptions for anybody watching this too. So both of you, thanks so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, Will.
Thanks. Thanks for enjoying Keyboard Samurai Podcast. If you'd like to engage, find Wil on LinkedIn at /Wil Kluv or visit at wilklu.me. That's WILKLU.me for more info. Disconnecting now. Synac you later.